The desperate call. The last hope. The emergency lights painted everything red on the Zephyrian mining station orbiting asteroid Kepler 442b. Colony Administrator Zara pressed her four-fingered hands against the cold metal walls as explosions shook the entire structure. Through the viewport, she could see the sleek black ships of the Vorthon raiders circling like hungry predators. "Ma'am, the shields are down to 12%, reported Chief Engineer Koreth, his usually calm voice cracking with fear. "The next wave of attacks will breach the hull." Zara closed her large violet eyes and tried to think. 3,000 Zephyrian miners and their families were trapped on this remote asteroid, far from any Galactic Union patrol routes. The Vorthon raiders had appeared without warning, demanding surrender and threatening to kill everyone if they resisted. The forgotten warning. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species. Their technology focused on mining and construction, not warfare. They had never needed weapons before because the Galactic Union protected all member worlds, but this asteroid was in disputed space, outside official boundaries. Administrator Zara called Communications Officer Nexel from across the command center. "I'm detecting 15 more Vorthon ships incoming. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Zara felt her heart sink. 15 more ships meant certain death for everyone on the station. The Vorthons were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless pirates who took no prisoners and left no survivors. "Have you tried contacting the Galactic Defense Force?" Zara asked desperately. "Yes, ma'am. The nearest patrol is 6 days away. They said they'll send help, but..." Nexiel's voice trailed off. Everyone knew help would arrive too late. Zara stared at the tactical display showing red dots surrounding their position. Each dot represented a Vorthon warship armed with weapons that could tear through their civilian station like paper. She thought about the children in the lower levels, hiding with their parents in the emergency shelters. The Forbidden Zone. "Ma'am," Nexel said quietly, "there is one more option. The distress beacon can reach the Forbidden Zone." Every Zephyrian in the command center turned to stare at her. The Forbidden Zone was marked on every star chart with warning symbols. It was the quarantined region of space where the Deathworlders lived. "You can't be serious," whispered Chief Engineer Koreth. "The creatures in that zone are monsters. The Galactic Council locked them away for good reasons." Zara had heard the stories. Legends spoke of a world where everything was designed to kill. The beings who lived there had evolved in constant warfare with their own planet. They were violent, unpredictable, and dangerous to all civilized life in the galaxy. "If we send a signal there," continued Koreth, "we might attract something worse than the Vorthons." Another explosion rocked the station. This time, Zara could hear the sound of metal tearing. The Vorthons were getting through their defenses. The impossible choice. "Administrator," called Security Chief Valix from the tactical station. "The Vorthons are demanding we open our docking bays. They're giving us 5 minutes before they start shooting civilians." Zara looked around the command center at her people. These were miners and engineers, not soldiers. They had families, dreams, and lives worth protecting. The Vorthons would kill them all whether they surrendered or not. "The children," Zara whispered, thinking about the 300 young Zephyrians hiding in the lower levels. "I won't let them die without trying everything." She walked slowly to the communications console. Her hands trembled as she reached for the controls. Sending a distress signal to the Forbidden Zone was against every law and treaty in galactic space, but what choice did she have? "Nexel, open a channel to the Forbidden Zone. Maximum power on all frequencies." "Ma'am, are you sure about this?" Nexel asked, her voice full of fear. "Do it," Zara commanded. The signal goes out. The communications array powered up with a deep humming sound. Zara picked up the microphone and took a deep breath. She was about to call for help from creatures that the entire galaxy feared. "This is Administrator Zara of Zephyrian Mining Colony K442b, she began, her voice steady despite her terror. "We are under attack by Vorthon raiders. 3,000 civilians are in immediate danger. We request emergency assistance from anyone who can hear this message." She paused, then added the coordinates of their location and a brief description of their situation. The signal broadcasted outward into the darkness of space, racing toward the Forbidden Zone at the speed of light. "Signal sent, ma'am," reported Nexel. "It will reach the edge of the Forbidden Zone in 18 minutes. The wait begins." The command center fell silent except for the sound of distant explosions. Everyone stared at the communications console, wondering what they had just done. Had they called for salvation or summoned their doom? Incoming message from the Vorthon fleet, announced Nexiel. Put it through, Zara said. A harsh voice filled the command center. It belonged to Raid Commander Vex, a Vorthon whose reputation for cruelty was legendary throughout this sector. Zephyrian colony, your time is up. Open your docking bays now, or we start killing your people one section at a time. Zara keyed the microphone. Commander Vex, we are a civilian mining operation. We have no weapons, no military value. Please, just take what you want and leave us alone. Vex laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. What we want is your lives. Zephyrian slaves sell for good prices in the outer markets. Your children will make excellent servants. The communication ended, leaving the command center in horrified silence. Slavery was forbidden throughout galactic space, but the Vorthons operated outside civilized law. Countdown to destruction. Ma'am, reported Security Chief Valex, the Vorthons are moving into attack formation. They're targeting our life support systems. Zara watched the tactical display with growing despair. Red indicators showed Vorthon ships positioning themselves around the station like a deadly net. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy the entire colony. How long until they attack, she asked. 3 minutes, maybe less. Zara thought about her decision to signal the Forbidden Zone. Maybe it had been a mistake. Maybe she had just ensured that if any Zephyrians survived the Vorthon attack, they would face something even worse. But what choice had she had? At least this way, there was a small chance of survival. The first shots. The Vorthon attack began with surgical precision. Their weapons targeted the station's main power grid, causing lights to flicker throughout the facility. Emergency power kicked in, but Zara knew it wouldn't last long. Hull breach on level 7, reported Chief Engineer Koreth. The Vorthons are cutting their way in. Seal the section, Zara ordered. Move all civilians to the inner core. She activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Administrator Zara. Move to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill. Through the station's corridors, she could hear families running toward the safer interior sections. Parents carried small children while older Zephyrians helped those who couldn't move quickly. Hope fades. Ma'am, called Nexiel urgently. I'm detecting massive power buildup from the Vorthon flagship. They're charging their main weapons. Zara knew what that meant. The Vorthons were preparing to destroy the station completely. They had given up on taking prisoners and decided to eliminate all witnesses to their attack. Time until the Forbidden Zone signal reaches its destination, she asked. 14 minutes, ma'am. 14 minutes too long. The station would be debris in space long before help could possibly arrive. Another series of explosions shook the facility. This time, the artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone in the command center to stumble. That was the main support structure, reported Koreth. The station can't take much more damage. The last transmission. Zara made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She activated the communications array one more time and opened a channel to the Vorthon fleet. Commander Vex, this is Administrator Zara. I want to make a deal. The response came quickly. You are not in a position to negotiate, Zephyrian. Take me, Zara said simply. Take me as your prisoner, but let the others go. You can sell one Zephyrian administrator for more than 3,000 civilian miners. The command center erupted in protest from her crew, but Zara held up a hand for silence. Vex considered the offer. Interesting, but I think I'll take you and kill the others anyway. More profitable that way. The communication ended, and Zara felt the last of her hope fade away. The Vorthons would show no mercy. The signal to the Forbidden Zone had been pointless. Something stirs in the darkness. Unknown to the desperate Zephyrians, their distress call had traveled through space faster than they could have imagined. It pierced through the electronic barriers surrounding the Forbidden Zone and reached the listening posts of Earth's deep space monitoring network. On a space station orbiting Jupiter, communications specialist Sarah Chen sat up straight at her console. For 3 centuries, humanity had been quarantined in their home system, forbidden from traveling to the stars by an alliance of alien species who feared human military potential. Ma'am, Sarah called to her supervisor, I'm picking up a civilian distress call from outside the quarantine zone, multiple civilian casualties, request for immediate assistance. Commander Elizabeth Hayes, a veteran of the Martian Defense Force, looked at the translation appearing on Sarah's screen. The message was desperate, heartbreaking, and impossible to ignore. How far? She asked. 18 light years. The signal originated near the asteroid belt in the Kepler 442 system. Commander Hayes stared at the tactical display showing the quarantine zone boundaries. Humanity had been trapped in their own solar system for 300 years, treated like dangerous animals by the galactic community. But this was a civilian distress call. Innocent lives were at stake. "Signal Fleet Command," she ordered. "Tell them we have a Code 7 emergency. Civilian lives in immediate danger outside the quarantine zone." Earth responds. Within minutes, the distress call reached Earth's military headquarters in Geneva. Admiral Marcus Kane, commander of the Human Expeditionary Fleet, read the translated message with growing anger. Somewhere in space, 3,000 civilians were about to die while the galactic community did nothing to help them. "How long to reach their position?" he asked his aide, Captain Torres. 16 hours at maximum burn, sir, but Admiral, we'd be violating the quarantine treaty. The Galactic Council could consider this an act of war." Admiral Kane was silent for a long moment. He thought about the children mentioned in the distress call. Human children had been trapped on Earth for centuries because other species considered humanity too dangerous to exist among civilized worlds. "Captain Torres, signal the fleet. All available ships prepare for immediate departure. Operation designation, Guardian Angel." "Sir, the Council will—" "The Council can go to hell," Kane said quietly. "We don't abandon people who call for help. That's not who we are." The fleet assembles across Earth's orbital shipyards. Alarms began sounding. The Human Expeditionary Fleet had been built in secret over decades, using technology developed from salvaged alien equipment and human innovation. 47 warships began powering up their engines, preparing for humanity's first venture into interstellar space in 3 centuries. These were not the crude chemical rockets that had first carried humans to Mars. These ships used fusion drives and experimental technologies that pushed the boundaries of physics. They were built for speed, stealth, and overwhelming firepower. The flagship, UEEF Determination, was a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything in the official galactic fleet. Behind it came heavy cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels, all designed with one purpose: to protect human interests wherever they might lead. "Fleet status report," Admiral Kane requested as he boarded the Determination. 47 ships ready for departure, sir," reported Fleet Coordinator Wilson. "All crews are aboard and all systems are operational." Kane nodded and activated the fleet communications system. "This is Admiral Kane to all ships. Today, humanity returns to the stars. We do so not as conquerors, but as guardians. Somewhere in space, innocent people are dying while no one helps them. We're going to change that." He paused, then continued. "The galaxy fears us because they think we're monsters. Today, we show them what monsters do when children are in danger. Fleet engage." Departure 47. Human warships disappeared into hyperspace. Their destination a small mining colony that had dared to call for help from the creatures the galaxy had locked away. The ships moved faster than anything the galactic community had ever built, using technology that shouldn't have existed. Back on the Zephyrian mining station, Administrator Zara watched the Vorthon fleet prepare for their final attack. The station's shields were failing, life support was operating on emergency power, and 3,000 civilians waited in terror for the end. She had no way of knowing that help was coming. She couldn't imagine that her desperate call to the Forbidden Zone had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. In 12 hours, the Vorthons would learn why humanity had been quarantined. In 12 hours, the galaxy would discover what happened when someone threatened the innocent while humans were listening. The Death Worlders were coming, and they were bringing a war fleet. When death answers shadows in hyperspace. The human fleet cut through hyperspace like ghosts, their ships running silent and dark. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the UEEF Determination, watching the tactical display count down the distance to Kepler 442b. 16 hours had passed since they received the Zephyrian distress call, and every minute felt like an eternity. "Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Chen, "we're approaching the target system, dropping out of
hyperspace in 3 minutes." Kane nodded, his weathered face showing the calm determination that had earned him command of humanity's secret fleet. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for their first real test against alien hostiles. "Sensor sweep as soon as we drop out," Kane ordered. "I want to know everything about this situation before we announce our presence." Through the viewport, the swirling colors of hyperspace began to fade. Stars appeared one by one as the human fleet returned to normal space 18 light-years from Earth. They emerged in the shadow of a gas giant, their ships invisible against the cosmic background. The Tactical Situation Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mills, the fleet's intelligence officer, studied her displays with growing concern. Admiral, I'm reading significant weapons fire in the asteroid belt. Multiple ships engaged in combat. The mining station? Kane asked. Still there, sir, but barely. Heavy damage to the superstructure. I'm detecting life signs, but they're concentrated in the interior sections. Kane felt a cold anger building in his chest. They had traveled faster than any ship in galactic history, but they might still be too late to save the civilians. What about the hostiles? 15 ships in attack formation around the station. Configuration matches known Vorthan raider vessels. They're using the station for target practice, sir. On the main screen, the tactical display showed the situation in brutal detail. The Zephyrian mining station was a broken shell, atmosphere streaming from dozens of hull breaches. The Vorthan ships circled it like vultures, taking turns firing at the helpless structure. First contact, sir. Called Communications Specialist Park. I'm intercepting transmissions from the station. They're begging the attackers to stop. There are children aboard. Kane's expression hardened. In 40 years of military service, he had seen many horrors, but the deliberate targeting of civilians was something that awakened a primal fury in every human. Signal to fleet, he ordered. Battle stations. All weapon systems online. Across the human formation, 47 warships powered up systems that had never been tested in real combat. Fusion reactors reached maximum output. Weapon ports opened along armored hulls. Shield generators created protective barriers around each vessel. Admiral, reported Weapons Coordinator Torres, all ships report ready for combat. Kane activated the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Kane to all ships. Our mission is to protect those civilians. Disable the raiders if possible, destroy them if necessary. Remember, the galaxy is watching. Show them what humanity stands for. The human way of war, the human fleet, moved toward the battle zone with predatory grace. Unlike the chaotic formation of the Vorthan raiders, the human ships maintained perfect tactical coordination. Each vessel knew its role and executed it flawlessly. Sir, reported Lieutenant Commander Mills, the raiders are so focused on the station they haven't detected our approach. Good. Let's keep it that way until we're ready to introduce ourselves. The lead elements of the human fleet, fast destroyers and cruisers, spread out to surround the raiders. The heavier ships, including Kane's flagship, moved to positions where they could deliver maximum firepower if negotiations failed. Admiral called Communications Specialist Park. I'm detecting a transmission from the lead raider vessel. They're demanding the station's immediate surrender. Kane listened to the translation with growing disgust. The Vorthan commander was describing in detail what would happen to the Zephyrian civilians when they were captured. Children would be sold as slaves. Adults would be tortured for information about other colonies. Open a channel to the raider fleet, Kane ordered. All frequencies. Announcing humanity's return the communication array on the determination powered up with enough strength to reach every ship in the system. When Kane spoke, his voice carried the authority of Earth's military command and the fury of a species that had been caged for too long.
Attention Vorthon vessels. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet. You are attacking civilian targets in violation of interstellar law. Cease your attack immediately and withdraw from this system. The response was immediate panic on the raider channels. Vorthon voices shouted in confusion and fear as their sensors finally detected the human ships that had appeared around them like phantoms. Raid Commander Vex, leader of the Vorthon fleet, opened a channel with a voice full of rage and disbelief. Human ships? Impossible! Your species is quarantined. You cannot be here. Commander Vex, Kane replied calmly. We are here in response to a civilian distress call. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from this system. You dare threaten the Bloodtusk clan? Vex snarled. We are 15 ships strong. We will tear your primitive vessels apart. Kane looked at his tactical display. The Vorthon ships were larger than most of the human vessels, and they significantly outnumbered the first wave of human ships that had taken position around them. Commander Torres, Kane said quietly, fire one warning shot. Show them what they're dealing with. Demonstration of force. The UEF Retribution, a heavy cruiser positioned behind the Raider formation, fired a single plasma bolt. The weapon had been designed using technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships, then improved with human innovation and determination. The plasma bolt struck an asteroid near the Raider fleet and vaporized it completely. A chunk of rock the size of a city block simply ceased to exist, leaving only glowing particles in space. The Vorthan communication channels fell silent. "Commander Vex," Admiral Kane said into that silence, "that was a demonstration. The next shot will be aimed at your engines. The shot after that will be aimed at your ship. Choose wisely." Instead of surrendering, Vex did something that surprised even the experienced human officers. He ordered his entire fleet to attack the human positions. "All Raiders, attack Pattern Delta," Vex shouted over the communication channels. "These humans are few in number. Overwhelm them." The battle begins. 15. Vorthan ships turned toward the human formation and opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missile salvos filled space with deadly light as the Raiders committed to a fight they couldn't win. The human response was swift and devastating. Ships that had seemed small and fragile revealed hidden weapon systems. Armor plating that appeared thin absorbed massive energy impacts without damage. Most shocking of all, the human vessels moved with impossible precision, avoiding incoming fire while delivering their own with surgical accuracy. "Jesus," whispered Lieutenant Commander Mills as she watched the tactical display. "They're trying to ram us." 3 Vorthon ships had abandoned their weapons and were attempting to physically collide with human vessels. It was a desperate tactic that spoke to either incredible bravery or complete insanity. The human ships responded by simply moving out of the way. Their engines provided thrust and maneuverability that defied the Raiders' understanding of physics. Ships that should have been caught in ramming attacks vanished from their predicted positions and appeared somewhere else entirely. Precision violence. "Admiral," reported Weapons Coordinator Torres, "the Raiders are using old-style energy weapons. Our shields are absorbing their attacks with minimal power drain." Kane nodded. Human technology had evolved in isolation, driven by the need to protect Earth from potential alien invasion. Every system had been designed to counter known alien capabilities while adding improvements that came from human ingenuity. "Target their engines only," Kane ordered. "I want prisoners who can tell us about other Raider activities in this region." The human fleet opened fire with coordinated precision that left the Vorthons stunned. Each shot was placed exactly where it needed to be. Engines were disabled without destroying life support. Weapons systems were neutralized without causing hull breaches. In 12 minutes, all 15 Vorthon ships were floating helpless in space, their crews alive, but unable to fight or flee. The Zephyrian perspective. On the mining station, Administrator Zara stared at her tactical display in complete bewilderment. 20 minutes ago, her people had been facing certain death. Now their attackers were floating helplessly, while alien ships unlike anything in galactic databases held protective positions around the station. "Ma'am," called Communications Officer Nexiel, her voice full of wonder. "We're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet." "Put it through," Zara said, not sure what to expect. A calm human voice filled the command center, speaking through translation software that seemed far more advanced than galactic standard.
"Administrator Zara, this is Admiral Kane of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet. We received your distress call and responded as quickly as possible. What is your current status?" Zara struggled to find words. "Admiral Kane, you came. You actually came. We have casualties, major structural damage, but we're alive. All 3,000 of us are alive because of you. We're sending medical teams and engineering support to assist with repairs." Kane replied, "Your people are safe now. No one will harm them while we're here." Through the viewport, Zara could see human ships taking defensive positions around the asteroid. These weren't the crude vessels she had expected from a quarantine species. These were warships that demonstrated technology and capabilities that rivaled anything in the galactic fleet. Medical assistance, the first human shuttle docked with the Zephyrian station 30 minutes after the battle ended. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Medical Officer of the human fleet, stepped through the airlock carrying equipment that looked decades ahead of standard galactic technology. "Administrator Zara?" she asked, identifying the Zephyrian leader by her administrative insignia. "I'm Dr. Vasquez. We understand you have wounded who need immediate care. Zara led the human medical team through the damaged station, marveling at their efficiency and compassion. The humans treated Zephyrian injuries with the same care they would show to their own species, using medical techniques that seemed almost miraculous. Doctors, Zara asked as they worked, "Your people, how did you develop such advanced technology? The galaxy was told that your species was primitive and dangerous." Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly as she used a neural regenerator to repair brain damage in a young Zephyrian. "We had 300 years to prepare for the day we would return to the stars. 300 years to develop better ways to protect innocent life." Engineering Miracle's human engineering teams swarmed over the damaged station with the same efficiency their medical teams had shown. Chief Engineer Rodriguez led a team that somehow managed to restore full life support and structural integrity to a facility that had been on the verge of total collapse. "How is this possible?" asked Chief Engineer Koreth as he watched humans repair systems that should have required complete replacement. "Your tools, your techniques, they're unlike anything I've ever seen." Rodriguez looked up from his work on the main power grid. 3 centuries of isolation teaches you to make the most of what you have. We learned to build better, repair faster, and never waste anything that might save lives. The human engineers worked with a precision and dedication that amazed their Zephyrian hosts. They didn't just repair the damage, they improved the station's systems, making them more efficient and more resistant to future attacks. The prisoners, meanwhile, human Marines were boarding the disabled Vorthan ships and taking their crews prisoner. Unlike the brutal treatment the raiders had promised their victims, the humans showed professional restraint and followed strict protocols for handling captives. Captain Sarah Chun, commanding the Marine detachment, reported to Admiral Kane via secure communication. "Sir, we've secured all raider vessels. No human casualties, minimal alien casualties. We're finding evidence of multiple atrocities throughout this sector." Kane's expression darkened. "Document everything, Captain. If we're going to operate in galactic space, we need to understand what we're facing." The evidence was horrifying. The Vorthan raiders had been systematically attacking civilian targets for months, selling survivors into slavery, and murdering anyone who resisted. Dozens of colonies had been destroyed, thousands of innocent beings killed or enslaved. Galactic response news of the battle spread through galactic communication networks with shocking speed. The quarantined humans had emerged from their isolation and decisively defeated a notorious raider fleet, while suffering no losses of their OWN.IN, the Galactic Council chambers on Centaurus Prime. Emergency sessions were being called to address this unprecedented situation. Some council members called for immediate military action against humanity for violating the quarantine. Others pointed out that the humans had rescued civilians whom the galactic government had abandoned. Chancellor Thex of the Drakmarian Empire demanded answers from a military command. How did primitive humans develop technology that exceeds our own capabilities? How did they appear in that system without our sensors detecting their approach? General Korth of the Galactic Defense Force studied the battle recordings with professional interest. "Chancellor, these humans are not primitive. Their tactics, their technology, their coordination, this represents centuries of focused military development. Are they a threat to galactic
Security? Thex asked. Korth was quiet for a long moment. "Chancellor, any species capable of what we just witnessed is a threat to anyone who stands against them. The question is whether we want them as enemies or allies." The choice. Back in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Kane faced a decision that would determine humanity's future in galactic space. The quarantine treaties were clear. Humans were forbidden from leaving their home system. By rescuing the Zephyrians, he had violated every agreement between Earth and the galactic community. But as he looked at the reports from his medical and engineering teams, Kane felt no regret. 3,000 innocent beings were alive because humans had chosen to act when no one else would. "Admiral," reported Communications Specialist Park, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding our immediate withdrawal and return to quarantine." Kane considered the message for a moment, then made a decision that would echo throughout the galaxy. "Send a reply to the Galactic Council." Tell them we will withdraw when we have ensured the safety and security of all civilian populations in this sector. Sir, Park said carefully, that could take months. Kane smiled grimly. Yes, it could. Signal the fleet. We're establishing a permanent patrol presence in this region. No more civilian ships will be attacked while we're on watch. The Admiral looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity had just announced its return to galactic civilization in the most dramatic way possible. The quarantine was over, whether the galactic community accepted it or not. The Deathworlders had emerged from their cage, and they had no intention of going back. The price of salvation. New Guardians. 3 days after the battle, the Kepler 442 system had been transformed. What had once been an isolated mining operation under attack by pirates was now the center of the largest human fleet operation since the quarantine began. 47 warships patrolled the asteroid belt while construction crews from Earth worked around the clock to establish a permanent base. Administrator Zara stood in her repaired command center, watching human ships move through space with military precision. The mining station had been rebuilt and improved beyond its original specifications. New defensive systems, provided by human engineers, now protected the facility better than any Galactic Defense Force installation. "Ma'am," called Communications Officer Nexel, "we're receiving another delegation request from the Galactic Council. This is the 15th one today." Zara sighed. Since news of the human rescue had spread throughout galactic space, politicians and military leaders from dozens of worlds had been demanding meetings. Some wanted to thank the humans for their intervention, others wanted them gone. "Tell them the same thing we've told the others," Zara replied. "Any diplomatic contact with the human fleet must go through Admiral Kane." The human perspective. On the bridge of the UEEF determination, Admiral Kane reviewed reports from across human space. Earth Command had authorized the deployment of additional fleets to patrol regions where civilian ships traveled without adequate protection. For the first time in 3 centuries, human warships were spreading throughout the galaxy. "Admiral," reported Captain Torres, "we're getting requests for assistance from 17 different systems. Pirate attacks, natural disasters, medical emergencies. Every civilian authority in this sector seems to think we can solve their problems." Kane studied the tactical display showing the locations of distress calls. Most were legitimate emergencies where civilian lives were at stake. Others appeared to be attempts by local governments to gain access to human technology and military assistance. "What's our capacity for response?" Kane asked. "We can handle maybe 6 operations simultaneously with our current deployment. But sir, Earth Command is asking when we plan to return home." Kane was quiet for a moment. The original mission had been to rescue the Zephyrian miners and return to Earth. But that was before they had seen the scope of civilian suffering in unprotected space. Before they had realized how many innocent beings were dying while the galactic government did nothing to help them. "Signal Earth Command," Kane decided. "Tell them we're establishing permanent patrol stations throughout this sector. We're not abandoning these people." The Zephyrian decision. In the mining station's main conference room, the Zephyrian Colonial Council was holding the most important meeting in their history. 3,000 miners and their families had to decide whether to remain in the asteroid belt under human protection or abandon their claims and return to Galactic Union space. "The humans saved our lives," argued Councillor Bex. "But what happens when the Galactic Defense Force arrives? We could be caught in the middle of a war." Chief Engineer Koreth disagreed. "Have you seen what the humans can do? Their technology is centuries ahead of anything the Defense Force has. If there's a war, I know which side I want to be on." Administrator Zara listened to the debate with growing certainty about her own choice. The humans had not just rescued her people, they had shown them what genuine protection looked like. For the first time since establishing the colony, she felt truly safe. "I've made my decision," she announced. "I'm requesting permanent human protection for this colony. Anyone who wants to leave is free to go." The vote was overwhelming. Fewer than 50 Zephyrians chose to return to Galactic Union space. The rest committed to building a new life under the protection of the species the galaxy had called monsters. First Alliance. The formal ceremony took place in the mining station's main assembly hall. Admiral Kane, representing humanity, stood beside Administrator Zara as they signed the first official treaty between Earth and an alien species in over 3 centuries. This agreement establishes the Zephyrian colonial territory as a protected enclave under human military guarantee, Kane read from the document. In exchange, the Zephyrian colonial government agrees to provide material support for human patrol operations in this sector. The treaty was simple, but its implications were enormous. Humanity had just established its first official presence in galactic space since the quarantine. They had done so not through conquest or intimidation, but by protecting civilians who had been abandoned by their own government. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had been treating Zephyrian wounded since the rescue, watched the ceremony with satisfaction. "Admiral, we're getting similar requests from refugee groups throughout this sector. Word is spreading that humans actually protect civilians." Kane nodded. "Doctor, how many medical emergencies are we currently handling?" 12 active cases across 6 systems. Plague outbreaks, radiation poisoning from solar flares, surgical cases that local medical facilities can't handle. We're saving about 1,000 lives per week just with our medical intervention teams. The galactic response escalates. On Centaurus Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in continuous session for 3 days. The chamber buzzed with angry voices from dozens of species as representatives debated humanity's return to galactic space. Chancellor Thex pounded his gavel for order. "The humans have violated every quarantine treaty signed 3 centuries ago. They must be forced to return to their home system immediately." Senator Crix of the Altarian Federation stood to respond. "Chancellor, the humans responded to a civilian distress call that our own forces ignored. They saved 3,000 innocent lives. Are we seriously considering punishing them for that?" "The quarantine exists for good reasons," insisted General Vorth of the Krell Empire. "Humans are aggressive, militaristic, and unpredictable. Today they claim to be rescuing civilians. Tomorrow they might decide to conquer our worlds." Senator Crix activated a holographic display showing the aftermath of the Vorthon raid. "General, look at these images. The humans had the firepower to destroy that entire pirate fleet, but they chose to disable and capture them instead. They provided medical aid to their enemies. Does that sound like the behavior of conquerors?" The debate raged for hours, but the underlying tension was clear. Many council members were terrified of human military capabilities, while others were beginning to see the benefits of having such powerful protectors for civilian populations. The Evidence Mounts intelligence reports flowing into the Galactic Council painted a picture that contradicted centuries of propaganda about human nature. Human fleets were operating in 17 systems, responding to emergencies and protecting civilian shipping. In every case, they had shown remarkable restraint and compassion. Admiral Zorks of the Galactic Defense Force presented his analysis to the military committee. "Council members, the humans are not behaving like invaders. They're behaving like a professional military force with a strong humanitarian mission." "That makes them even more dangerous," argued General Vorth. "Competent enemies are always more threatening than incompetent ones." "General," Admiral Zorks replied, "I'm not sure they are enemies. Our intelligence indicates that human technology could overwhelm our defenses in any direct confrontation. If they wanted to conquer galactic space, they could probably do it. Instead, they're using their capabilities to protect civilians we've abandoned." The admission sent shockwaves through the council chamber. For 3 centuries, the galactic military had assumed they could contain humanity through the quarantine. Now they were learning that the quarantine had only been effective because humans had chosen to respect it. The refugee crisis. In the Outer Rim territories, news of human protection had triggered a massive refugee movement. Civilian ships from dozens of worlds were heading toward human patrol areas, seeking protection from pirates, natural disasters, and local conflicts. Captain Sarah Chen, commanding the UEEF Vigilant, watched her tactical display with growing concern. "Admiral Kane, we have 47 civilian ships requesting escort to human-protected space. That's more than our entire convoy capacity." Kane studied the refugee reports. Families fleeing civil wars, merchants avoiding pirate-controlled trade routes, medical evacuation ships carrying plague victims to human hospital facilities. Each request represented innocent lives that needed protection. "Captain, signal Earth Command. We need immediate reinforcement. I'm not turning away civilians who trust us to keep them safe." The response from Earth was swift and decisive. President Martinez authorized the deployment of the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet, bringing the total human presence in galactic space to over 200 ships. Cultural exchange. On the Zephyrian mining station, an unexpected development was taking place. Human and Zephyrian personnel were working together so effectively that cultural barriers were beginning to dissolve. Joint engineering teams had improved mining efficiency by 30%. Human medical techniques were saving Zephyrian lives that would have been lost to previously untreatable conditions. Chief Engineer Kareth worked alongside human engineer Rodriguez to design new asteroid mining equipment. "Your people think differently than we do," Kareth observed. "We plan for optimal conditions. You plan for everything that could possibly go wrong." Rodriguez smiled as he adjusted the safety systems on the new mining laser. "When you come from a world where everything tries to kill you, you learn to prepare for the worst-case scenario. It keeps people alive." The collaboration was producing innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Zephyrian precision combined with human adaptability was creating technology that surpassed anything in the galactic database. The Vorthin testimony. In the human detention facility orbiting the gas giant, captured Vorthin raiders were providing intelligence that horrified even experienced military interrogators. Raid Commander Vex, facing charges of genocide and slavery, had agreed to cooperate in exchange for life imprisonment instead of execution. "The Bloodtusk clan controls 7 systems," Vex admitted during his debriefing. "We've destroyed 43 civilian colonies in the past 2 years. The Galactic Defense Force knows about our operations, but they never respond to distress calls from the Outer Rim." Captain Torres, conducting the interrogation, leaned forward. "Why don't they respond?" "Politics," Vex said simply. "The Outer Rim colonies don't have representation in the Galactic Council. No votes, no protection. We knew we could operate freely as long as we stayed away from the core worlds." The revelation confirmed what human intelligence had suspected. The galactic government only protected colonies that could influence political decisions. Everyone else was abandoned to whatever threats emerged in uncontrolled space. The ultimatum. After 5 days of debate, the Galactic Council reached a decision that surprised no one who understood galactic politics. Chancellor Thex announced the Council's position in a broadcast transmitted throughout human space. The Galactic Council demands the immediate withdrawal of all human forces from galactic space. Failure to comply within 72 hours will result in military action to enforce the quarantine protocols. The ultimatum was backed by the largest fleet deployment in galactic history. Over 1,000 ships from 40 different worlds began converging on human patrol areas. The message was clear: return to quarantine or face the combined military might of galactic civilization. Admiral Kane received the ultimatum while overseeing the evacuation of a plague-stricken colony in the Rigel system. Human medical teams had been working for 18 hours straight to treat victims of a bacterial infection that local doctors couldn't cure. "Admiral," reported Captain Torres, "Earth Command is ordering us to comply with the ultimatum. They're concerned about the survival of Earth if we trigger a galactic war." Kane looked out at the refugee ships filled with families who had trusted humanity to protect them. Children who would die without human medical intervention. Colonies that would be destroyed by pirates if human patrols withdrew. "Signal Earth Command," Kane said quietly. "Tell them we understand their concerns, but we're not abandoning these people." The human decision in the emergency session of the Earth Global Council, President Martinez faced the most difficult decision in human history: comply with the galactic ultimatum and preserve Earth's safety, or support their military forces and risk the destruction of human civilization. "Madam President," argued Defense Secretary Harrison, "we cannot fight the entire galaxy. Our forces are outnumbered 50 to 1. If we resist, Earth itself could be destroyed." Foreign Secretary Williams disagreed. "Madam President, our forces in galactic space are protecting over 2 million civilian refugees. If we withdraw, most of them will die. Is Earth's safety worth 2 million innocent lives?" President Martinez studied the reports from the Outer Rim. Human intervention had saved countless lives and brought stability to a region the galactic government had abandoned. But the cost of continuing could be the destruction of Earth itself. "Admiral Kane has made his position clear," she said finally. "He won't abandon the civilians under his protection. The question is whether Earth will abandon Admiral Kane." The vote was closer than anyone expected, but the result was decisive. Earth would support its forces in galactic space, regardless of the consequences. Preparation for war. Across human space, the most advanced military in the galaxy prepared for a conflict that could determine the future of civilization. Earth's orbital shipyards worked around the clock to complete new vessels. Colonial defense forces prepared to protect human worlds. The Sol Defense Network powered up weapon systems that had been hidden from galactic observation for centuries. In the Outer Rim, Admiral Kane's forces took defensive positions around the civilian populations they had sworn to protect. Human engineers worked frantically to complete evacuation ships for the most vulnerable refugees. Medical teams prepared field hospitals for the casualties that would inevitably result from galactic military action. "Admiral," reported Fleet Intelligence Officer Mills, "the Galactic Fleet will arrive in 18 hours. Final count is 1,047 ships from 38 different species." Kane nodded grimly. "Signal all human vessels. We will not fire the first shot, but we will defend every civilian under our protection. Make sure the galaxy understands that any attack on refugee populations will be considered an act of genocide." The moment of truth. The Galactic Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, led by the massive dreadnought GDS Dominion. Admiral Zareth of the Krell Imperial Navy commanded a force that represented the combined military might of dozens of worlds. The human fleet waited in defensive positions around the refugee populations, their ships smaller in number but radiating confidence that came from superior technology and unshakable determination. Admiral Zareth opened communications to the human fleet. "Admiral Kane, this is your final warning. Withdraw your forces from galactic space immediately or face the consequences." Kane's response was calm and unwavering. "Admiral Zareth, we are here to protect innocent civilians. If you wish to attack unarmed refugees, you'll have to go through us." "Admiral Kane, you are outnumbered 10 to 1. "Admiral Zareth, you are threatening civilians under human protection. Numbers won't save you from the consequences of that decision." The two fleets faced each other across the void, representatives of two different philosophies. One that valued political stability over innocent life, and another that would risk everything to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. In the tense silence before the battle, both admirals knew that this moment would determine not just the outcome of this conflict, but the future relationship between humanity and the galaxy. The quarantine was over. The only question was whether humanity would emerge as the galaxy's greatest threat or its greatest protector. Admiral Kane gave the order that would echo throughout galactic history. "All ships weapons free, protect the innocent." The battle for the soul of galactic civilization was about to begin. Epilogue. 6 months later. The Zephyrian mining station had become the capital of the Human Protection Zone, a region of space where civilian shipping moved safely under the guarantee of human military force. Refugee populations from dozens of worlds had settled on protected colonies, building new lives free from the fear of pirate attacks or governmental abandonment. Administrator Zara, now serving as the first alien ambassador to Earth, stood in her expanded command center watching the daily patrol reports. Human ships protected trade routes throughout the sector, while human medical teams responded to emergencies across multiple systems. "Ma'am," called Communications Officer Nexiel, "we're receiving another request for protection. The Antarian colonies are facing attacks from the Vectar Horde." Zara smiled. "Forward the request to Admiral Kane. Tell them the cavalry is on the way." The galaxy had learned what happened when someone called for help and humans were listening. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. They had not abandoned those who trusted them, and they never would. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, human ships stood watch, ready to answer the next distress call from innocent beings in need of protection. The age of abandoning civilians to pirates and natural disasters was ending. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians, and the galaxy was slowly learning to trust the monsters who protected the innocent.